Greetings, flowers and herbs. I am sending you all some warm, positive vibrations. So, this early day as I'm moving around in the quiet and just listening, just listening, something I wanted to touch on, which I've shared before. One, just an update in terms of whole living foods as I continue along this 12, almost 13-year journey to share some feedback on that. But before anything, priorities is the 30 days of intentional relaxation has passed, but I'm going to continue. Greetings from Tennessee. Sending you so much warm vibrations. I'm going to continue that because I think it's a good, positive use of the internet. So, just the practice of deep breathing, no religion required, no gurus required. We're breathing all the time. So, breathing is free and it is something that we have access to. So, you're welcome to find a comfortable position on the floor. If you are perhaps more stiff in your body, you can feel free to sit in a chair so your spine can stay upright. You can also sit on top of a yoga block, put it underneath your glutes and your hips so that you can have a more height and you're able to keep your spine upright. So I like to use my clavicle as a marker, right? That even sometimes this subtly, it may seem like we're sitting straight, but I like to roll my shoulders up, around, down, and back, right? And even retract a little bit to help me keep my spine and my posture straight. Also, I want to make sure that I don't have computer neck when my chin is jutting out like this, just to gently pull my cervical spine in alignment with the rest of the spine and keep a lot of space between my ear and my shoulder so there's a good amount of blood flow. And I will say, so that you know already, you may or may not notice, I have a lisp when I speak. So it may sound like I have a lisp. I used to suck my thumb when I was a little girl. So just so you're mindful. So I'm going to make an effort to slow myself down because when I get excited, I can have a tendency to speak fast. So that's how I speak. So we're still delving into and exploring the breath and the capacity the breath has to help us calm down. It's a tool we have access to become more grounded, to be more present in your body instead of going away with the screen of thoughts that are in your mind that can totally take you away from your original intention you may have had for yourself. Where you may I want to exercise today. I want to quote unquote fast or abstain from certain kinds of mindless habits. I want to declutter today. I want to start on a new project. But the mind, right? Not the brain, that's the organ, but the mental activity will run away from you. And we have like micro triggers all day, every day, particularly through these screens, which we can be more aware of now that many people are constrained more to their home spaces. Now it's mostly through the screen that we're having interactions and triggers, in addition to when we're encountering other humans on the street, at the store. People are even in an even more heightened state of what I call triggeration. So in an effort to stay grounded on what your intention is for your experience out on this planet, the breath is such a tool, such a wonderful tool that we have access to go back in and remember our original intentions for our lives, our goals, our aspirations, and at a basic level to have an effect on your own body chemistry. I've been in the holistic health field for many years. My sister right now is taking a class on working with people with cancer. And interesting, I don't know everything, but it really confirms different things I have been privy to in the holistic health field for several decades. Having seen many patients that come in with tumors, fibroids, cancer. Now today, before we even get there, just stress. Can you imagine what effect this has on your blood chemistry? So just taking a few moments to be very intentional about your breathing. What do you have to lose with some of the stress? So sitting in a nice upright position. Drawing your belly button in towards your spine to help keep your lower back from pinching and pain. We're just going to take some deep breathing. That's first things first. Your eyes can be open or closed. Your hands can be on your knees. Today I'm sitting like this, but sometimes I might sit like this, whatever feels intuitive for you, with a comfortable position, whatever feels comfortable for you, so you're not distracted by discomfort in your body. So you can place your hands where they're comfortable, your spine where it's comfortable, your eyes can be closed or open. And when you're breathing, if there are sounds that come up intuitively, like, hmm, ah, feel free, because you're in your house and nobody can see you, right? So you can get used to trusting yourself and your intelligence that wants to calm and soothe you, that wants to um, balance out, right? We have access to that if we listen, and the quiet can allow us to listen. That being said, breathing through the nose, nice long inhales and exhales. So, in the name of relaxation, that doesn't cost us anything. You can feel free to dial back in and breathe. In the afternoon, perhaps before you have your afternoon meal, before you get ready to start consuming food, right? Physical food. it can be a good idea to dial in and literally breathe. I know these practices may seem overly simple, simple, simple. However, they can have such a ripple effect on you being grounded and present in your body. And that is so important when we're looking to neutralize a lot of mindless habits. Often, most of the most of the behaviors we have during the day, I don't know if we dial in to realize it. 90 something, I don't know if they say 95 plus percent is subconscious. It means I'm speaking to you consciously, but not but, and the behaviors, the triggered behaviors, the pattern ingrained behaviors are on automatic pilot. So we may not be thinking consciously how much nervousness, anxiety, fear is driving a lot of our behaviors that actually can cause us to self-sabotage and or not be as mindful or intentional about how we are using our time, our focus, our precious life energy. And so we may not realize it, but we're siphoning off a lot of energy. If you think about it, just the visual of a leakage of energy, like you think of a pipe or a big pipe or a big, huge stream of energy is leaking out. And so when you find yourself drained and you feel like you cannot get your energy back, like, where's my energy? I cannot find motivation. I cannot find the focus to exercise or to start self care, like consistent, committed self care. You may not realize that your energy, that you're voluntarily giving up your energy or siphoning it off to entities, people, to these screens, to advertisers. Your energy is being sucked out. And so, two things I wanted to touch on this morning. Hopefully, you can hear because the internet signal is challenging in this part of the world. But I wanted to touch on, let's done the good stuff first, and that's so that it's a whole living food. So I've been consuming the lifestyle a second time around. First time is as a person in my 20s, I believe it was. Unfortunately, I was working at a holistic health center, so I came across a lot of healers and folks that were all manner of physical therapists and colon therapists, massage therapists, and healers doing different healing work in the Afro community. In my 20s, working at a holistic health center, and then so I've been in health and fitness for many years. Wow, since graduating high school, and that was um, after being motivated from seeing the patterns of obesity and diabetes and substance abuse throughout my community and my family. So it made my eyes very inquisitive, and that has led me on a journey of decades. And so the second time around, consuming whole living foods, unprocessed, fresh foods, and particularly eating, some people would say raw vegan. I like to say living foods, right? I make an effort not to get so stuck on the labels because the labels can actually have the potential to sidetrack us and have us get so into the label that we don't notice the energetics of how we are eating. And I think that can be much more important. Otherwise, we can have a tendency to have a fried chicken, bread, uh, super gravy, macaroni and cheese mentality, even with whole living foods, and still be binging and gorging as a way to process emotions. Upset. So, and this in my 12th year of consuming whole living foods, I decided to do an experiment after working a retreat where it was supposed to be, or it was going to be a whole living foods, but it wound up being a mixture of foods, right? To introduce whole living foods to many people, and it was actually a really great experience because I hadn't cooked food in over almost going on 12 years, and so with the same ingredients, I provided food for people that was lightly cooked, some things still sprouted and lightly cooked, as well as whole living and uncooked, only cooked by the sun. And it was really wonderful in that most of the people at the retreat were in love with the food. They found it really delicious. And I kept hearing people say, I could eat like this all the time. I can eat like this all the time. Was really gratifying. I found gratifying was the fact that it was not processed. I'm big on not preparing things that I will call substances masquerading as foods. Now, mind you, I grew up on flesh. I was a junk food junkie. I worked at a high-end restaurant in New York. So I say low-end junk, high-end junk, I've eaten it all. I've eaten it all. And so even when we removed the flesh, I went through a process initially of eating lots of what I would call health junk, substituting all of my potato chips, which I was addicted to, and my fries and my Indian samosas. I enjoy food and eating and spices. I transferred a lot of that over to health junk, and it was still very, very starchy, very flavorful. But I found there was still um, some qualities, some real subtleties I noticed with the food, and it kept evolving over the years. The more and more fruits and vegetables I ate, the more and more fresh foods. I noticed some distinct differences in terms of my energy level, definitely in having a bunch of acne. And this time, my 12 years, I decided recently to, after this retreat, because usually when you're making food, you're going to taste it and make sure that is delicious for those people you're preparing it for. And I didn't have a problem tasting it and still eating my foods, but it definitely led me out of the curiosity of a chef to sample. So for several weeks, trying potatoes and salty things. In my mind, I was thinking like, and some people may or may not, they may think it's not a big deal, but to me, I'm a scientist when it comes to movement and food, that I found that it was more so for comfort, not for nutrition. Now, although it's not processed, right? And I know exactly what's in my food and it's being prepared fresh. I found there was some distinct subtleties with those foods. And so I allowed myself, because I do a lot of what I would call shadow work around food. Um, I noticed some things because I'm a big listener to my thoughts. And I noticed all of that eating for comfort, for comfort, for comfort, energetically, between that and not being mindful all the time of the screen, even with the best intentions, the energy that's coming at you on the screen, even if you have good intentions, I realize it's a drainage of energy. And I found it affecting my sleep and so on. So, in not being judgmental with myself and listening to myself, I find my mind saying, like, I'm not feeling this. I don't like this, even though the food tastes delicious, because I could throw down. The energetics of it, I didn't like. And then also, I really feel intuitively that the whole living foods, I call it's beauty food. And I like eating for beauty. Beauty, not just in terms of what I look like, but definitely as someone that's had a lot of acne. Over the years, I found I did not, as somebody that's worked in fitness as a trainer, as before as a fitness competitor, I did not want to worry about dieting, right? And doing something off and on. I'd like to find what I can do consistently and not have to worry about it. And so I was finally like, energetically, I'm not feeling this. And then also, not just beauty. Beauty to me is health. When I say beauty, beauty to me is health. So I could be eating all these living foods and something can still happen, but I make the effort to be 110% responsible for my life. And I do know that the food for me has to be delicious so that I can continue to do it. There's so many raw foodists and fasts and water fasting. It can be a lot of information overload. So fortunately, I have in my mind's eye my grandma Lou, and I like simplicity. I love simplicity. And so I found myself saying, I'm not feeling it's like energetically. And I tell you, I was like, I'm not really feeling it. It tastes delicious, but the comforting I felt energetically, like all of that starch, right? Starts to put on a certain type of weight. But if you can follow me energetically first before it manifests on the body, and just as well as we can use these screens for distraction. The distraction is heightened. I would say it's hypnotic, right? In the very practical sense. It's hypnotic. It is insidious, almost imperceptible. It can leave your brain fried. It can leave you actually, we may not even notice, depressed, but definitely drained of energy. So I had this visual the other day, and I'm not a Mukaju kind of person, but I just had a visual of, if I say, let me see, if I say one of these chords, right? I had a visual chord, if you think of the computer chord, and I was thinking energetically of the cord of my mind, my energy being plugged into the wall or the internet. And that through watching these screens, right? Because you can I have timers on my screens, on my devices, that will show me how much screen time. If I'm on Facebook, Instagram, right? I have little reminders and accountability tools to encourage me to be mindful of, and just so I can see objectively where I'm putting my focus and my energy. So just in the visual of a cord going from my mind, right? My brain, but energetically into the wall, right? And into these screens, I realized, oh my gosh, no wonder you can feel so absolutely drained, because even though it's just looking at the screen, there's an energy exchange. There's an energy exchange. And so when you constantly hear, and I get that we need to have at least some kind of knowledge of what's going on, but it is so insidious. It is, to me, it just heightens fear. It heightens fear. So it's literally like a plug of energy. There's an energy exchange in what you're watching, because your brain, via your eyes, and the information and the messages coming in, is having you have responses in terms of fear. If you see someone that has been tortured, their life has been taken from them online, you're naturally going to have a response, and it's happening to you in milliseconds. This affects your breathing, your heart rate. If you were to see one of these episodes in front of you, it's a traumatizing experience. And then, especially as an Afro person, when you're told, keep moving, get over it, be positive, just pray over it, that's not even logical. It doesn't make sense. Just one woman's perspective. There's not that much praying in the world. You're affecting yourself. So I encourage folks to be very intentional around your use of these screens, right? Fire, you can use fire, it can burn somebody and give you third-degree burns. Fire can also burn trash in the tropics. Fire can purify something, right, in terms of heat, or sterilize something, and can also be used as a destructive force, just as with this internet. And even as I'm talking about these subjects now, there are constantly pictures going on in my mind. So it may be very necessary during the course of the day to be very intentional about deep breathing. Even it could take you 2 or 3 minutes. And it may seem like it's silly. Maybe the ego may feel embarrassed, but it could be perhaps one of the best self-care, beauty meaning health, self-care practices that you do for yourself. And the whole living foods I found yesterday, just intuitively making a dish with some simple ingredients. Oh my gosh. I woke up today, I kid you not, I do experiments all the time. My body feels so much lighter and better. Feels so satiated with fresh juice. And it's different from just, we could do recipes, but people, it's not just having greetings. It's not just about having a recipe mentality. I don't know if you can understand here. Sometimes people ask me for recipes. I get the recipes, but the mentality comes before the recipe. Why are you doing what you're doing? The second, personal training. When I give clients an exercise, I'd rather for someone to understand the mechanics, the why behind they're doing what they're doing. Otherwise, it doesn't stick. So, got to be kind of tired. You got to be tired enough to stop certain behaviors. You got to kind of like, and I saw in listening to the internal dialogue, I was thinking like, and this is somebody that eats very healthy. Some people say, wow, you eat extremely healthy, because there's certain things, I used to be very greedy and I love to eat. You could not pay me to eat now, because I'm so clear on what occurs to me as suffering and the repercussions of taking in certain kinds of things. But always being mindful of our reaction to stress, not demonizing it, very key, not demonizing it, being more, having more of a healthy curiosity around our behaviors and self-sabotaging behaviors. Easy to beat yourself up. Someone that's been in fitness to be like, yeah, I'm a burn off the fat. I'm a beat myself into submission. That's actually not usually very sustainable. And so if you really love your lifestyle and you love the way you feel, um, I love the way my skin looks and feels on living foods. And again, I can appreciate a fresh face of makeup and all that other stuff. But I also like to be comfortable in my own skin and with my own hair, where I know I don't have to do anything to myself or to my body. And I know that I want to be able to maintain that into my upper years as I mature. That gives me a sense of peace and a sense of confidence, and that peace of mind and that internal quiet. Oh my gosh. It's so important that you have that independently for yourself. So, living foods, as much as some things taste delicious, and I would even say, guiding, instructing people. I have family members that will call me for recipes and cook recipes. And for some of them, I will, especially younger people, because they're managing their own money and I can make anything healthy. My preference, though, is the why of how I'm eating. And I think for women, maybe I'll include this in the workshop. There are many things that we may not consider in our 20s. There are things you're not going to consider before you have a child, as your body matures, even in your 20s and 30s, into your 40s and your 50s. There are things that we're not banking on. There are things that many women don't even talk about in terms of changes of life that are going to come. Having worked with all different types of demographic cultures, age groups, there are things that are coming for your body. It's inevitable if you're not making deposits and investments in your body. Again, I could be eating all this healthy food and something could still happen. However, I'd rather be 110% responsible in terms of getting into action around what I say is important to me, because even today I'm reaping the benefits of healthy habits. So I have so many healthy habits of riding the bicycle with my groceries and of walking and eating fresh food that doesn't occur. That's just a lifestyle. So if somebody else has to keep making the decision to get started again. Now that's something huge that I have taken off the table, and I like to take things off the table because it frees me up to put my focus in other areas. So whole living foods, they're the most beautifulest foods, and that's one of my biggest things. I love taste, but I'm crystal clear. I eat for health and beauty and vitality and my mood first. And then everything else I can be creative with, if that makes sense. So the other thing I wanted to touch on today is internet vampirism. Now, this may not seem like it's not a positive topic, but it is what it is, right? Sometimes, quite often, when I put this screen on, when I turn on the computer, I will notice, and I've mentioned this before, that certain folks, I know, and folks can be subscribers, click on immediately, and then sometimes I'll see these interesting little comments on the page, but it's not exactly a comment. It appears they're coming from certain sites, so they're voyeurs or people looking to look at you. I mean, all different types of people. You can look at little people, aka some people say midgets, or smaller people, bigger people, people with locks. You can, people can pull up a catalog on the internet and look for what they want to gawk at or look at. And I realized what people are looking for, and all quite often, unfortunately, many men, is it's energy, right? At one time, it used to be upsetting and angering to me. It's nothing wrong with looking at something that you perceive as attractive. All human beings, we like to look at flowers and beautiful things. That's not a problem, but there's something energetic. There's something energetic that's going on. The voyeurism with people, and it occurred to me, in the quiet moments, almost like a snatching of energy, because the internet seemingly superficially gives you access to people who you don't have to go up to and introduce yourself with healthy boundaries of respect. You don't have to hone your people skills. You can blurt anything out of your mouth without any perceived consequence. Now there's something called cancel culture, which I don't totally understand, but it has shifted people's behaviors in the perceived lack of boundaries. So, in order for people to look at you, maybe back in the day, somebody would have had to hire somebody and get a filming crew and, shoot whatever their shot is and market that. Those videos or whatever kind of skit they want to have. But now today, people want to snatch your image and snatch your energy. And if you have if you have joy, if you have happiness, if you have health, if you have beauty, if you have intelligence, people want to snatch your energy without going through a protocol of respect, without an honoring of the person, without an honoring of the woman, without a protection of the girl. And it occurred to me, wow, that's a vampirism. And also, where do these behaviors come from? And they're mimicked. So, in the spreading of these videos without a context, and in younger people and younger men, and men in general, watching this content, it's not in a full context. And I know I've had this discussion only a few times with some people, but I've often wondered what is the issue with the ORNPay, ORN with a P in the front. What's the issue with it? And so, of course, consenting adults can do whatever they want. Actually, on one of my lives recently, some gentleman, some man came on and said, "I'm so and so, older adult male film star," and I was thinking, okay, like, what's your point? But I realized he had a reason for mentioning that, right? On these screens, people are looking to introduce sometimes maybe something you weren't even thinking of, to introduce something into your psyche, to spark a curiosity. They're looking to get a certain type of engagement. I think perhaps maybe they consider that women, Afro women and women in general, or if they don't know your age, if you're older or younger, that you're desperate, that you're just looking for money, that you're open to whatever. So again, this computer has seemingly removed boundaries. And as much as many women may feel angry at men, I just sit without making right or wrong, right? But definitely being discerning. I wonder if we consider the climate that is here, how we are complicit or maybe contributing even in our not speaking up, in us in our own, each of us individually. What do we contribute to the climate of safety? That's my main concern, of safety and respect. Safety and respect. Where are the spaces that people can go and engage in paying for sex work, right? But respecting those women that choose to do that, allowing those women to charge accordingly for whatever they want to charge. But also, as women, the women that do also that work, do you consider, or women considering, young women and girls that they are mimicking without a context of safety, without a context of comprehending perhaps the emotional, psychological damage, and the type of behaviors that these people are coming with when you're just thinking of trading someone looking at you or performing for them for money. There's so much that people are not considering, and young women in particular are green. They don't have the life experience. Maybe perhaps we have lots of more mature women that may be feeling really needy of relationship. And I'm not going to demonize that either, because human relationships that's a natural thing. However, in the quiet hours, I contemplate that all of these platforms in the internet is monetized. It is all monetized and it is all for profit. So I wonder if the male folks consider that as they're not developing interpersonal skills with someone or going through a proper vetting process to protect themselves from disease or to protect yourself even psychologically or mentally, that all the folks that sit on these internets actually are being used. Because the longer we sit on here, they have these things called cookies and things. A lot of times you'll click on it. We're watching your behavior to offer you more content that's catered to you. The goal on Facebook and these different platforms is to keep you on here longer so things can be marketed to you. And so you're enticed to vices without a whole context of respect and responsibility. I would say those are the two things that are quite often missing in these human behaviors, right? Of sensuality, sexuality, the respect, the respect of boundaries, healthy boundaries, the respect that younger people don't have a context and a responsibility and a maturity to understand quite often what they're getting themselves into psychologically. There may be many adult men and women that are underdeveloped themselves, right, in today's society. And so the narrative for how we're interacting or how you should interact for attention or to receive intimacy or to receive attention the narrative is being orchestrated by somebody else that's not you, that doesn't have your best intentions at the forefront. The first thing is profit. And so many of us allow ourselves, often in ignorance and desperation, to be used and to be exploited. There's no respect, no responsibility, and there's no reciprocation. So if anyone would choose what they are going to be paid or what the healthy boundaries will be, those women. And I don't know if many of the folks that are moving around with all these agendas and all of these labels, quite often what I don't see is the healing of trauma, actual with the S in front and non-actual with the S in front. I don't know who really has a vested interest in healing your trauma but you, because everything out here mostly is for profit. So the vampirism, right? Human beings like to mimic each other and we copy each other, just like some of our fellow primates, right? We learn from each other, quite often mimicking each other out of desperation without a lot of thought to it. So I would equate it to a lot of energy vampirism. And I don't know if many of the men that perhaps that keep clicking on this channel, and I don't know if it's even limited to men these days, that we're looking for an energy. We're looking to feel something with, at the same time, circumventing and going around the process. There's a process to be healthy and fit. It costs you something, sweat and discomfort. There's a process to, even today, peace and relaxation. Quite often may require you to come off of these screens where you're just being freaked out moment to moment, and it becomes enticing for you to watch things that are stressing you out and freaking you out, and then making deposits in your subconscious and have you triggered and acting out on yourself and each other's, and then self-medicating. So I'm not going to go on and on. These are just some things I wanted to touch on, to consider. I don't know that you can really appease the energy of vampires. In recent years, one of my life lessons has been that you cannot appeal to the energy of something that isn't something to be something else. For example, in my travels, my sister and I experienced an aggressive poisonous snake. Yes, an aggressive. It's called the yellow jaw. You can look it up. And when I saw my sister, she saw it first. We were in a creek. And I took one look at her face and we just took off running. And only when we got to safety did I ask her, what was it? She was like, you didn't see the snake? That was on. Now we knew of the snake being in the area. There are several poisonous snakes that, you're basically going to be out if you get bit by these couple of snakes. And so my heart was thumping in my chest. And I was like, where is it? And we went back. The snake was still right there. Huge, aggressive snake. We're like, oh my gosh. And so eventually, when other people came to help, the snake was still there doing what the snake does. Now, I ask you, how much sense would it be for me to say, please, Mr. and Mrs. Snake, don't bite us. Please, we're not bothering anybody. We just want to bathe in the creek. The snake was doing what it does. That's the nature of it. That's the nature of the snake. So I don't think that appealing to someone, civil rights revisited, I don't think that I don't know that, let me not say I don't know. I'm not willing to invest my time, my precious lifetime and energy in appealing to someone or something or an entity that has demonstrated its consistent patterns of what it is and what it will do for pity. It's not that time on the planet. There are lessons for us to be learned right now. To appeal to someone that shows a lack of compassion, a lack of processing empathy or human feeling. It's not my job nor my responsibility to appease and to beg for pity. And again, it's a whole dynamic that's going on this internet. It's also not my job. I'm not going to sit here and spend all my time on the internet because I'll get turned off. I want to delete these channels. So I still make an effort to make a positive use of the internet. But I think perhaps something for us to consider as adults. What are we contributing to an environment that is safe for young people and young adults and women, where we can feel comfortable in our skin and knowing that we have the birthright to healthy boundaries, a lack of safety, a lack of boundaries, all of these things, all of us. And I invite women to consider these are things that we will never maybe perhaps think of that affect the way that we eat and the way that we consume and the way that we shop mindlessly. So in food shadow work and energy consumption shadow work, these are things that we explore. And this is, we can do the exercise because I am trained as a fitness coach for many years, and we can do the healthy food and we can do the recipes. But this is the area I find that many of us don't touch on. And so many of our efforts are usually temporary, and they're not sustainable because there's something in our comprehension that's missing. So this has been a long share today. I'm inviting you to take a moment to breathe. It may seem silly. It may seem like it doesn't make a difference, right? But with spending so much money, these screens and these advertisements are often encouraging us to get more perfume and more makeup, and those things are great. But to get more. But hasn't it occurred to us that we're still not satisfied? Hasn't it occurred to us that something is missing? Why am I not satisfied, right? When I used to eat a lot of brown rice back in the day, I used to even healthy food, I was like, how come I'm not satisfied? I ate almost a whole little pot of brown rice. There's something that we're looking to feel and to get full from. And it's not the physical food. And food is huge in our toolbox, but there's something that's beyond the physical food. So with that, I'm going to invite you to create a great day. I'm going to invite you to be on the lookout for the cocoon. There is a cocoon coming up. I am all for going into the cocoon. I think it's high time many of us, especially Afro folks, especially Afro women, go into a cocoon and not continue to fight these screens, because we only have but so much of a bandwidth, only but so much can stay on the forefront of the bandwidth before we fizz out and burn out, and we'll wonder why we're drained of energy. Remember, like a cord, it's being siphoned off, and we may not even really be noticing it, but you can know you don't have the energy to exercise. You feel like you don't have the energy in your body temple. So it's time for an overhaul, to give ourselves some rest and a reprieve, and a time to eat the most delicious foods. When I say delicious foods, water-rich foods, nutrient foods, foods that love you back and that don't leave waste on your waistline. and that are energetically not just putting a warm blanket of coping without resolving over issues and allowing things to come up so that they can pass. That I have found has is a part of the process of weight release more so than weight loss. Y'all create a great day on purpose. I am continually always revamping and reassessing my use of the internet and the use of my focus and my energy and my interactions, because my life force is a currency. It's a currency. It's bigger than a 401k. And it would benefit us to be really particular and protective of our energy, protective of your joy. Because I love, there are polarities, but I love feeling joy. And simple conversations, you'll notice that your joy has been snatched. So it would behoove us to pay attention. All right, y'all, create a great day on purpose. Oh, you're welcome to subscribe to the channel and share this perhaps with someone that could benefit. Feel free to play this while you are decluttering. One of my top secrets of things that I do, play this while you're decluttering or while you're cleaning and moving around in your house, so that if we're going to be programmed, you might as well program yourself. All right, see you soon.